There is a land in Eastern Europe that has been invaded more times than almost anywhere else on Earth. Dacians, Romans, Goths, Huns, Avars, Slavs, Bulgars, Magyars, Cumans, Pechenegs, Mongols and Ottomans all tried to conquer it. All left their mark. But the people survived. They kept their language, they kept their identity, and they produced two of history's most legendary warrior princes. Vlad Țepeș, Vlad the Impaler, the man who became Dracula, the prince who stopped the Ottoman Empire at the gates of Europe by planting forests of impaled enemies. And Stefan cel Mare, Stephen the Great, the prince who won 46 out of 48 battles, the defender who held off Ottomans, Poles and Hungarians for 47 years and was declared Athlete of Christ by the Pope. These men were not Vikings, they were not Normans, they were Romanian, Wallachian and Moldavian princes who carried 2,000 years of genetic and cultural resistance in their blood. Today, modern DNA studies reveal what Romanians are made of. 60% ancient Dacian and Roman, 20% Slavic, 10% Thracian and Greek, and 10% scattered influences from every invasion force that tried and failed to erase them. This is not the story of conquerors. This is the story of survivors. This is the story of a people who held their ground at the crossroads of empires, while everyone else tried to erase them from the map. This is Romanian DNA, the bloodline that would not break. Before Rome, before Christianity, before the Romanian language existed, there were the Dacians. 10,000 years ago, the Carpathian Mountains and the Danube River Valley were home to Neolithic farmers. By 4,000 years ago, Bronze Age cultures thrived here, building fortresses, mining gold, and creating some of Europe's most sophisticated pre-Roman societies. By the 1st century BC, the Dacians had built an empire. Their king, Burebista, controlled territory from modern-day Slovakia to the Black Sea. The Greeks called them the bravest of the Thracians. The Romans called them dangerous. The Dacian capital was Sarmizegetusa Regia, high in the mountains of Transylvania, protected by 6 massive stone fortresses. These weren't primitive hill forts. They had advanced water systems, astronomical sanctuaries, and defensive walls that rivaled anything Rome had built. The Dacians worshipped Zalmoxis, a god of immortality. They believed death in battle was glorious, a gateway to eternal life. Roman historians wrote that Dacian warriors fought without fear, singing as they charged into battle. But in 101 to 106 AD, the Roman Empire decided Dacia had to fall. Why? Gold. Dacia held the richest gold mines in Europe. Emperor Trajan launched 2 brutal wars. The Dacian king, Decebalus, fought back with everything he had. The war was so significant that Trajan built a massive monument in Rome, Trajan's Column, depicting the entire conquest. You can still see it today. Carved into the marble, Dacian warriors with their distinctive curved swords called falques, Dacian fortresses burning, Dacian women and children being taken as slaves. In 106 AD, Decebal took his own life rather than be captured. Trajan took his head back to Rome as a trophy. Dacia became a Roman province. But here's the thing, the Dacians didn't disappear. Modern genetic studies, published in the journal BMC Genetics, analysed ancient DNA from Dacian burial sites and compared it to modern Romanians. The results? Modern Romanians carry approximately 40 to 50% genetic continuity from the ancient Dacian population. The Y DNA haplogroups most common in ancient Dacian remains, R1a and I2a, are the same haplogroups dominant in modern Romania. The Dacians survived Roman colonization. They intermarried with Roman settlers, and they became the foundation of the Romanian people. When Rome conquered Dacia, they didn't just occupy it, they colonized it. Emperor Trajan brought hundreds of thousands of Roman settlers, soldiers, administrators, merchants, and their families. For 170 years, Dacia was a Roman province. Latin became the administrative language. Roman law, Roman culture, and Roman blood merged with the Dacian population. This is why Romanians speak a Romance language today. Not Slavic, not Germanic. Romance, descended from Latin. Romanian is the only Romance language in Eastern Europe, surrounded by Slavic, Hungarian, and Turkic languages. Listen to these words. Romanian apa, meaning water, comes from Latin aqua. Romanian frate, meaning brother, comes from Latin frater. Romanian bun, meaning good, comes from Latin bonus. Romanian dragoste, meaning love, has Latin roots. The language survived because the people survived. Even after Rome abandoned Dacia in 271 AD, retreating because of Gothic and Hunnic invasions, the Romanized Dacians stayed. They retreated into the mountains. They kept speaking Latin. They kept their Roman identity. Genetic studies show that 20 to 30% of modern Romanian DNA comes from this Roman period. Southern European markers, Italian haplogroups, Mediterranean genetic clusters. The fusion was complete. Dacian warriors plus Roman colonists equals Proto-Romanians. But the invasions had just begun. For the next 1,000 years, wave after wave of invaders swept across the Carpathians and the Danube plain. 271 to 376 AD. The Goths. Germanic tribes pushed south from Scandinavia. They occupied former Roman Dacia. Some settled, most moved on. 376 to 454 AD. The Huns. Attila's empire terrorized Europe. The Huns controlled the Danube. Romanian ancestors hid in the Carpathian Mountains, preserving their language and culture in isolated valleys. 6th to 7th centuries, the Avars and Slavs. Slavic tribes migrated south. They settled across the Balkans. They mixed with the Romanized Dacian population. This is where 20 to 25% of Romanian DNA comes from. Slavic genetic markers, Slavic words entering the Romanian language, is Latin. The people were bilingual, the culture was hybrid, but the identity remained. 9th to 10th centuries, the Magyars. Hungarians arrived from the Eurasian steppes and conquered Transylvania. For 1,000 years, Transylvania was part of Hungary. But the Romanian population stayed, speaking Romanian, keeping their Orthodox Christian faith, maintaining their identity under foreign rule. 13th century, the Mongols. The Golden Horde swept across Eastern Europe in 1241. They destroyed everything in their path. But the Carpathian Mountains protected the core Romanian population. The Mongols moved on. 14th to 19th centuries, the Ottomans. This was the longest and most brutal threat. The Ottoman Empire controlled the Balkans and wanted to expand into Central Europe. The only thing standing in their way? 2 Romanian principalities, Wallachia and Moldavia. And this is where our heroes enter. The year is 1456. The Ottoman Empire is at its peak. Sultan Mehmed II, the conqueror of Constantinople, demands submission from Wallachia. He wants tribute. He wants troops. He wants control. The Prince of Wallachia is a 25-year-old man named Vlad Dracula. Vlad, son of Dracul. Vlad the Dragon's son. History will call him Vlad Țepeș, Vlad the Impaler. Vlad's childhood was brutal. At age 11, he and his younger brother Radu were sent as hostages to the Ottoman court, insurance to keep their father loyal. For 6 years, Vlad was held prisoner in Edirne and Anatolia. He was tortured. He was indoctrinated. He watched his father and older brother murdered by rival boyars and Ottomans. When Vlad finally escaped and claimed the Wallachian throne in 1456, he was no longer a child. He was a weapon forged in Ottoman cruelty. And he had one goal: make the Ottomans fear Wallachia more than death itself. Vlad's first move was domestic. Wallachia's nobility, the Boyars, were corrupt and treacherous. They had killed his father. Vlad invited 200 Boyars to an Easter feast. Then he arrested them all. The old and weak he impaled immediately. The young and strong he forced to march 50 miles to Panari Castle and rebuild its fortifications with their bare hands. Most died from exhaustion. Then he turned to the Ottomans. In 1462, Sultan Mehmed II sent an army of 90,000 men to crush Wallachia. Vlad had maybe 30,000 soldiers. The numbers were impossible. So Vlad did the impossible. He launched a night attack directly on the Sultan's camp. The night attack of June 17th, 1462. Vlad and a small force of cavalry charged into the Ottoman camp in total darkness, killing thousands, causing chaos, nearly reaching the Sultan's tent. The attack failed to kill Mehmed, but it terrified him. The Sultan retreated, not defeated militarily, but psychologically broken. As the Ottoman army marched toward the Wallachian capital of Târgoviște, they encountered something that would become legend: a forest of 20,000 impaled corpses, Ottoman prisoners of war, impaled on stakes, left to rot in the sun. The smell was unbearable. The sight was apocalyptic. The Ottoman chronicler Laonikos Chalkokondyles wrote, "The Sultan's army came across a field with stakes, about 3 kilometres long and 1 kilometre wide, and there were large stakes on which they could see the impaled bodies of men, women and children, about 20,000 of them. The Sultan was seized with amazement and said that it was not possible to deprive of his country a man who had done such great deeds. Mehmed II turned his army around and left. Vlad had won." Modern historians debate Vlad's methods. Was he a psychopath, a hero, a monster, a patriot? The answer is, he was Romanian. He was the product of 1,500 years of invasions, occupations, and survival. He understood that a small principality couldn't defeat empires with conventional war. So he used terror. And it worked. Wallachia remained independent. The Ottoman advance into Europe was delayed, and Vlad became a legend. Now, here's the genetic angle. Vlad Țepeș was a product of the Romanian nobility, which itself was a mix of Dacian, Roman, Slavic, and even some Hungarian bloodlines. His family, the House of Dracula, claimed descent from the ancient Basarab dynasty, which traced its origins to the Cuman Kipchak tribes and Romanized Vlach nobility. Vlad was not pure anything. He was Romanian, a fusion of 2,000 years of invasions, resistance, and survival. And that's exactly what made him formidable. While Vlad defended Wallachia, another prince was building a legend in Moldavia. His name was Ștefan cel Mare, Stephen the Great. And his record speaks for itself. 47 years as prince, 48 battles, 46 victories. This is one of the greatest military records in medieval European history. Stephen fought Ottomans, Poles, Hungarians, and Tatars, and he won almost every single time. Stephen became Prince of Moldavia in 1457 at age 24. His first major test came in 1475 at the Battle of Vaslui. The Ottoman Empire sent an army of 120,000 men to conquer Moldavia. Stephen had 40,000. Stephen used the terrain. He used scorched earth tactics. He lured the Ottoman army into a marshy valley, then attacked from multiple sides. The Ottomans were slaughtered. Over 45,000 Ottoman soldiers died. It was one of the worst defeats in Ottoman military history. Pope Sixtus IV called Stephen Athlete of Christ, Champion of Christendom, for stopping the Ottoman advance. But Stephen wasn't just a warrior, he was a builder. During his reign, he constructed or restored over 40 monasteries and churches across Moldavia. Many still stand today, UNESCO World Heritage Sites, with stunning frescoes painted on exterior walls. These aren't just churches, they're fortresses, cultural strongholds, symbols of Romanian survival. Stephen understood something fundamental. To survive as a small nation surrounded by empires, you need three things: military strength, diplomatic cunning, and cultural resilience. He fought when he had to. He made alliances when he needed to. And he built monasteries to preserve Romanian identity, even if the principality fell. Stephen died in 1504, after 47 years of defending Moldavia. He was buried at Putna Monastery, which he had built. His tomb remains a pilgrimage site for Romanians. Genetically, Stephen, like Vlad, was a product of the Romanian nobility. His lineage included Vlach, Slavic, and possibly Cuman ancestry. The Moldovan nobility intermarried with Polish, Hungarian, and Ukrainian noble families, creating a complex genetic web. But Stephen identified as Romanian. He spoke Romanian. He defended Romanian Orthodox Christianity. He built Romanian cultural monuments. DNA doesn't determine identity, culture does, and Stephen's legacy is proof. So what does Romanian DNA look like today? Modern genetic studies, including research from the Romanian Academy and international genomics projects, paint a clear picture. Romanian DNA breakdown: 40 to 50% ancient Dacian and Thracian, which is indigenous Carpathian. 20 to 30% Roman and Southern European, from Roman colonization. 20 to 25% Slavic, from medieval migrations. 5 to 10% Hungarian and Central European, from Transylvanian history. 5 to 10% other influences, including Greek, Turkish, Tatar, and Germanic. Y DNA haplogroups. Patrilineal. 1,2A is 25 to 30%, which is an ancient Balkan and Dacian marker. R1A is 15 to 20%, which is Slavic and Indo-European. R1B is 10 to 15%, which is Western European and Roman. E1B1B is 10 to 12%, which is Balkan and Mediterranean. J2 is 5 to 8%, which is Greek and Anatolian. Regional variations. Transylvania shows more Hungarian influence, higher Central European markers. Moldavia shows more Slavic influence, closer genetic similarity to Ukrainians. Wallachia shows more Balkan influence, genetic overlap with Bulgarians and Serbs. But all three regions share the core Daco-Roman foundation. All three speak Romanian. All three identify as Romanian. The genetic diversity makes sense. Romania sits at the crossroads of empires. For 2,000 years, armies marched through. Some settled, some left. But the core population, the descendants of Dacians and Romans, survived. Vlad Țepeș and Stefan cel Mare were products of this genetic and cultural fusion. They weren't pure anything. They were Romanian, shaped by invasions, hardened by survival, defined by resistance. And their legacy lives on. Modern Romanians carry their DNA, not just biologically, but culturally. The language, the Orthodox faith, the pride in survival despite impossible odds. Romania is not a nation of conquerors. It's a nation of survivors. A people who held their ground while empires rose and fell around them. From Decebalus to Vlad Țepeș to Ștefan cel Mare to modern Romanians, the bloodline endured. This is Romanian DNA, the unconquered, the unbroken, the fusion of 10,000 years of history written in genes and courage.